Handwriting's atrocious. I apologize. But Amy,
Jared, my husband's handwriting is atrocious. I can read yours.
okay. We've got Amy and Laura.
Okay. All right, let's call this meeting to order of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments on Wednesday, June 11th at 9 a.m. So we do have a quorum, and so we'll establish a quorum. Item number 2 is agenda approval. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Sharon Thompson and John Graham. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Item number 3 is public comments. Oh, let's see, I should go around and introduce everybody, and then we'll get to public comments. We're just running this through. I'm Holly Williams. I'm the chairman. We will go this way.
Good morning, Kelly Case, Mayor of Woodland Park. Excuse me.
Good morning, Andy Gunning, PPACG Executive Director.
Good morning, Annie Dura, Mayor of Cripple Creek.
John Graham, City Manatee Springs.
Todd Dixon, Mayor of Green Mountain Falls.
Sharon Thompson, Mayor Fountain.
Mitch LaKine, Mayor of Monument.
Bill Wysong, County Commissioner, District 3.
Colorado Springs Council.
Colorado Springs City Council.
Shane Ferguson, Region Director, CDOT.
Jeff Bond, representing Space Base Delta One, Peterson, Schriever, and Cheyenne Mountain.
Carol Richards, Office Manager for PPACG.
Randy Williams, Colorado Springs City Council.
Okay, we have Jared on the mic. Online, we have William Shaw of Rama, our Mayor Pro Tem. Steve King of Monument, our Mayor Pro Tem. Amy Mitchell from Park County. And Laura Kronig, a City Council woman in Monument. So we're excited to have everybody. And also David Tookmanian from Fort Carson. So let's go on to item number 3, public comments. Public comments can be made before or during the meeting. Public comments during the meeting is limited to 3 minutes and can be done at the meeting location or remotely by using the posted Microsoft Teams link. Individuals are encouraged to notify the meeting organizer at PPACG at ppacg.org before the start of the meeting with the agenda item they would like to comment on. Public comments can be submitted before the meeting via email to ppacg at ppacg.org for distribution to the committee members. So I do understand. First, do we have any public comments in the audience? Okay, we do have one. Come forward. State your name for the record. Are you Nicole? Okay, thanks, Nicole.
My goodness. So sorry. I am the ambassador at Silver Key Is. I'm here since Jason, our CEO, is not able to make it today. But I wanted to invite everyone to please come to our breakfast. And it is on June 26th. Doors open at 7:30 a.m. If you're not able to make it, please come see me. I would love to give you a tour of Silver Key. We offer so many wonderful services for our seniors in the community, and I would love to give you a tour. Thank you.
What day was your breakfast again?
It is June 26th at 7:30 in the morning is when our doors open. Should be over by 9:30.
What's the location?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is at the Marriott Tech Center Drive. I do have cards. You can register online or you can come and see me and I will get you registered.
Okay, so if you do make it to the end of the meeting, if you could pass out the cards, otherwise I'd leave them on the table so people can grab them on the way out.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We
Commissioner?
just love Silver Key. Go ahead, Mayor
I just
Thompson.
want to let you know that is the week that many municipal elected officials will be at Colorado Municipal League up torturing ourselves up in Breckenridge for you all. So probably a lot of us aren't going to be able to make it. So maybe next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments or comments from our board? All right,
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, we do have one staff introduction and one very brief staff update from the senior games. Go ahead.
We just wanted to share that we were able to participate in as the volunteer volunteer sponsor for the Colorado Senior Games that was hosted in Colorado Springs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had staff participating and manning tables to provide information. And so we had Melissa was at track and field. She's got the photo there. And then we also had Dolly, one of our other staff members who participated at the pickleball tournament. So the Colorado Senior Games is just one step towards national senior medaling competitions. And so just want to let you know we were able to participate with that and share that with you. And so we're looking forward to participating in the future again.
I do have a few medium shirts available. So if anyone would like a medium shirt, we would love to hand that out. And the picture that I'm going to share around is a gentleman who is 81 years old and he's doing the pole vault. And even though this is in some ways, a really exceptional human being who can still do a pole vault at 81, it's really about people living their best lives as you're aging. So just keep that in mind. But if anyone wants to try to pole vault, more power to you. So I'm going to hand this out.
Thank you, Andy.
and I think John's going to stand up and tell us what John, what event did you participate in?
I was part of the Cordera Couch Olympics, so I hold the state record for potato chip eating, but that's not why I'm here. I do have a question. I don't know why there's never any double XL t-shirts left, but that's
well, I think we all understand that. That's
anyway,
the first one
I'm wasting,
for too.
You guys like to get out of here, and I apologize. I'll be more succinct. I just want to introduce Josh Squires. Come up, Josh. Let the folks see you so they can come find you before, during, and after the meeting. Josh is our new tip planner. As many of you know, Jess Bechtel decided that she wanted to move closer to her sister, so she left us for the state of Ohio. Boo, Ohio, because he's originally from Michigan. And so Josh is our new tip planner. So you'll get to know Josh over the coming months and years, hopefully years, and he'll be available for your questions. But he comes to us again. He originally from Michigan. He moved to Iowa and went to University of Iowa, got his minor in economics and your master's in public administration. Did I get that right? Bachelor's. That was so close. Anyway, he's a smart kid, knows a lot of stuff, and he's picked this stuff up real quickly. So we're looking forward to having Josh around for a very long time. So again, when it comes to the Transportation Improvement Program, Josh is going to be your new point of contact. Say hi to the nice folks.
Hi, look forward to working with all y'all's. Thank you.
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Originally from a town, Davison, Michigan, so about 40 minutes north of Ann Arbor.
Okay, so I have a child in at University of Michigan, and I had a child at Ohio State. Yes.
Go blue.
Okay, we have a 5-year anniversary for Jennifer Horn. Come on up. Come on down. Jennifer, is Jennifer here?
Jennifer's online.
Jennifer's online.
Hi,
this
Jennifer.
morning. So to clarify, Jennifer is one of our part-time employees in our Family Caregiver Support Center. And today she's being recognized for her 5-year anniversary. And it's quite a joy to have Jennifer with us. And I don't know, can you all see Jennifer? No. So, but because she's part-time, today is one of her days off. And she lives in Pueblo, so we're going to cut her some slack instead of driving up here for 3 minutes. So anyway, we just wanted to recognize her 5 years. She's done a lot with the Family Caregiver Support, bringing her experience in social work and as a retired military. And she just recently, and what we're really excited about for her, is she just received her licensed clinical social worker degree. And so we're very excited to have her continuing with us on staff, and to accept her 5-year recognition today is Tommy Superfine Rivera, who is our front desk administrator, and received the certificate on her behalf. So she got to choose who's going to receive her certificate, but her recognition is really important for us to have her part of our team, and we're very proud of that. So anything else you want to add, Amy?
No, thank you, Jennifer. She's online. She brings the heart and the passion along with her professionalism and support of our seniors, and just really appreciate all your great work. So thank you, Jennifer.
So Jennifer, what we've done, we've changed up our recognitions a little bit, and I want to read this out loud since you're not with us this morning, but so that everyone knows what we've chosen for you. That's a plaque that says difference maker. And so I'll put that up for the screen there there we go. So as difference maker, a strong, resilient person who is unshaken by life's challenges. They are unwavering in their dedication to uplift, inspire, and empower everyone they touch. They live not just to exist, but to make an impact, to serve, to ignite a change, and to leave the world better, one person at a time, also known as Jennifer. So thank you very much, Jennifer. We appreciate your time with us and working with us here at the Area Agency on Aging, and congratulations on 5 years. There she is.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I think it's speaks highly of a person when they are compassionate and can give of their time in that kind of role. It's a lot. It can take a lot of out of you. So we do appreciate all of your hard work. Okay, letter C is military installation reports in honor of the 250th anniversary of the Army. We are going to go with David Tukmanian of Fort Carson first.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks for the opportunity. So listen, June is a huge, very busy month for us this year, as it is every year. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the key events that we have coming up. So I think it's just next week is the street breakfast on the 18th. We're looking forward to that. And then after the street breakfast at 10:00, we're going to say goodbye to Major General Doyle, and we're going to welcome Major General Ellis, our new senior mission commander here at Fort Carson and the 4th Infantry Division. So that's 18 June. The following week, 23 June, we have our installation planning board, and I think several of the folks or your staff folks have been invited to that. So that's a big event where we kind of go over kind of the strategic efforts for both installation infrastructure and initiatives, and we get kind of the buy-in from our senior commander and our installation management commander. Then the following week, 27 June, or I think it's later that week, 27 June, we're going to say goodbye to Command Sergeant Major Jason Mortensen. He's our garrison Command Sergeant Major, and we'll welcome in our new Sergeant Major. And then the last thing I want to cover, and this is a big one, please let all your communities know, 28 June is Freedom Fest. If you haven't been to Freedom Fest, it's a huge event on Fort Carson. We have major headlining bands. We have arguably the best fireworks display in the Front Range, food trucks, bounce houses, all kinds of stuff for the kids and vendors. There's usually 30,000 something people on post. So, and it's open to the public. So please come on down to Fort Carson and enjoy a fantastic event on 28 June. I believe it starts at 4 p.m. and that's at Iron Horse Park on Fort Carson. So folks, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Pending any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. I know that many will be looking forward to that event on the 28th. Jeff, with Space Force Delta One and Schriever and Peterson and a couple other things, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to the PPACG Board of Directors. One item to brief on the Powers Airport Interchange Project. Communication and development continue to be stellar. We are just really impressed on how this is working and the unfettered access and egress we have from our installation. So hats off to the city and Colorado Department of Transportation for making this all come together. June 18th is the initial operations for Space-Based Delta 41. As I reported last month, the Space-Based Delta 1 is splitting, and Schriever will be getting their own command structure operating autonomously under Space Operations Command. And Peterson and Cheyenne Mountain will continue to operate under Space-Based Delta 1. And I say this a little tongue-in-cheek that we still haven't gotten the full approval from the Pentagon on this, but we're progressing as if the approval is on its way. So more to come on that. Our installation leadership are still navigating the presidential directives that continue to come down. Currently, the deferred resignation program, the participation has been, I believe, above expectations. As far as the DoD cuts to the civilian workforce, we have met the expectations right now. There's rumor that there's potential more cuts coming down, but I think we've met the quota. So it's been an exercise to figure out how it all works, but it's been good as far as we can see for the current situation. Pending any questions, that's all I have to report on today.
Are there any questions?
Roland Rainey, City Council. Quick question. With the Delta 41 new structure, has there been any identification of the command structure? Who will be the new commander out there, or are you still waiting for the Pentagon to make that decision?
So what I know is that Colonel Bogue is going to be the commander for Space-Based Delta 41. He will take command on, pending Pentagon approval, he'll take command on June 18th. And the command structure is part of the IOC is putting an I plan together and figuring out how Space-Based Delta 1 is going to be dissected to support the command structure autonomously from the current Peterson, Schriever, Cheyenne Mountain construct. Does that answer your mail?
It does. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further questions? All right. Thank you very much for that report. We appreciate it. I don't think we have anyone else here, Jared, do we? No one from the Air Force Academy? Okay. Thank you for those who have reported. We really, really appreciate it. We will go on to item number 4, which is our consent items. These items are acted upon a whole unless they are called up for discussion by a board member or a citizen wishing to address the board. We have items A through E. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on any of those items? Any board members? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Item number 5 is our fiscal year 2024 fiscal audit. Carol McBroom and Stockman Cast.
Good morning, Carol McBroom, PPACG Finance Director, here to update you on our 2024 fiscal audit. And before I call up Steve with Stockman Cast, I do have our finance staff with us here today. Amruta and Amy are here. And they've done an excellent job in 2024. And I just want to give them a shout out. But to give the audit report, Steve Hochstetter with Stockman Cast is here for you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Steve Hochstetter, and as Earl said, I'm one of the partners with the firm Stockton Cast Ryan and Company. So on the behalf of the firm, we appreciate the opportunity to serve as the auditors. I have two reports to go over with you. One is a governance letter, and we call it a governance letter because as your auditors, it's communications that we're required to have with those those charged with governance. And I don't know if these reports are in the packet to pull up or.
Yes, and we also have
All
it
right,
in our
perfect.
packet.
That is the letter. So as I said, we call it a governance letter, and all the communications in here are what I would describe as positive in nature or meant to be an overview of the audit process. So the starts out by just stating, we audited the financial statements for the years ended December 31st, 2024 and 2023 under the heading Significant Audit Matters. This first paragraph discusses your accounting policies and points out that your accounting policies are described in note 1. Probably one of the key communications in here is at the end of the second line where it states that as described in note 1, PPACG did adopt a new accounting policy this year. It's called GASB 101, and it relates to compensated absences. And the effect of it is time that your employees earned for sick time in the past did not have to be recorded as a liability. With GASB 101, you now do have to record that as a liability. So in 2024, that liability was recorded and you recorded an offsetting expense. The rest of the paragraph, the key communication is really at the end of the last line that says all significant transactions have been recognized in the proper period. The second paragraph deals with accounting estimates. Most financial statements do involve certain estimates. Some tend to be more sensitive than others. In the middle of this paragraph, we point out what we believe are the more sensitive estimates, and it's estimates surrounding your useful lives of your capital assets, collectability of accounts receivables, and potential refunds for disallowed costs related to your government grants. As part of our audit, we do review management's assumptions and felt they're all reasonable in relationship to the financials taken as a whole. At the top of page 2, difficulties encountered in performing the audit. There were no difficulties. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. It's not unusual for auditors as part of the audit to detect errors and propose adjustments. We did detect one error. It was a error in reporting related to the understatement of capital assets. You received certain federal funds, ARPA funds, and you use those funds for capital expenditures. Under generally accepted accounting principles, you're required to capitalize those expenses. Management did intentionally report that as an expense in order to match the incoming revenues with the outgoing expense. But nevertheless, it is considered an adjustment. Disagreements with management, we're required to communicate with you. Disagreements, whether they're resolved or left unresolved, that involve financial accounting, auditing, or reporting matters, and we had no such disagreements. And the letter continues on with a few more minor items. Some organizations will engage in what's referred to as opinion shopping, and they consult with other accountants to find someone who may agree with them in instances where their auditors disagree. We're not aware of any such consultations. And finally, other audit findings or issues from time to time, we do have various discussions with management, and we felt they're reasonable in relationship to the financials taken as a whole. So turning to the audit report itself, rather than try to go through the financial statements, I'm just going to kind of point out what's in here. Given that we only had the one adjustment related to the capitalization of expenses, the financial information that's contained in this report is consistent with what you have seen in your internal financial statements. So if we turn to the first page after the table of contents, this page is our report on your financial statements, and it starts out with our opinion, and our opinion is in the second paragraph where we state, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization and the results of its activities. That's the highest level of assurance that CPAs give on financial statements. So as a board, it's the opinion you want to receive from your auditors. The report goes on to discuss the basis for our opinion. We perform the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. Continues on with management's responsibilities while we prepare this reporting document. Ultimately, management is responsible for it. And then the rest of our report on the financial statements continues with our responsibilities, discusses some of the supplemental information related to your government funds. Continuing on after page 3, beginning on page 4, pages 4 through 7, it's management's discussion and analysis. This is really what the title indicates. It's management's discussion of the activities, the results of operations, and reasons for changes. Beginning on page 8 is the basic financial statements. Governments report their financial activities under 2 methods. One is called government-wide presentation, and it provides a broad long-term overview of your financial position, similar to how businesses in the private sector report on financial statements. Those reports on pages 8 and 9. Governments also provide information on what's referred to as a fund financial basis. Those statements are on pages 10 and 12. It's a more detailed but a short-term perspective.
I'm sorry, we have a question from Director Williams, right here, right next to me.
Oh, okay.
Hi. So before you get too far on page 6, it says you found that we received $1,931,501 less than we anticipated. And I'm assuming that we managed beautifully through that process.
You did manage beautifully through that. And you'll also see when we hit a report on your budget compared to actual, you adjusted your expenditures and then spent less than you had budgeted as a result of receiving less funding than you anticipated.
Almost $2 million. So thank
Yep.
you, Andy. Good job. I just wanted to point all that out to everybody. No, we don't need to go into detail. I just wanted to make sure that, again, we navigated that beautifully.
You did very well. Then I was just going to say pages 11 and 13 of your financial statements are really a reconciliation of those 2 methodologies. So I won't take the time to go through the basic financial statements. If you turn to page 14, is the notes, the financial statements, pages 14 through 20. It begins with a summary of significant accounting policies, and then the rest of the notes really provide additional details on account balances. If we jump over to page 21, I think this really addresses your question. This is a statement that compares your actual results with your budgeted results. And in the first section, the first half a dozen lines is your total revenues. If you look at your second numerical column is your final budget. The third numerical column is your actual expenditures. And then the last column is the difference. So you can see you had an unfavorable balance or an unfavorable variance, excuse me, where you received $1.9 million less than you had budgeted. But if you jump down to the 2/3 of the way down, you can see your total expenditures. You adjusted for that and expended $2.5 million less than budgeted. So the result was you anticipated a break even, and you had revenues in excess of the expenditures of $600,000. Beginning on page 22 are reports that relate to your federal grants. Page 22 is a schedule of your federal awards. Under single audit requirements, we're required to test certain grants, and there's sort of a formula as to how we select what we select. But the grants that we tested consisted of 4 major programs. If you look at that as assistance listing number, the grants that begin with that 93.004 for those first 3 lines, the ones 93.045 and 93.053, so that $3.8 million in the first section. And then over on page 23, the middle of the page, that grant 20.513 for $1 million. So of your $7.7 million, where we were required to test about $4.8 million of those expenditures. And the results of our reports is really summarized on page 28, I believe, page 30. So page 30 is a report is titled is a schedule of findings and question costs. And it starts out with your financial statements. As I mentioned in the first report, we expressed the unmodified opinion. Internal controls over financial reporting. There were no material weaknesses identified. However, this draft is marked incorrectly. There was a significant deficiency identified. That significant deficiency relates to that audit adjustment that I mentioned earlier. As auditors, when we have an adjustment like that, it's considered to be a significant deficiency. Despite the titles, the material weakness is more significant than a significant deficiency. So the significant deficiency is the lower level of those type of weaknesses. Related to your federal awards, we expressed an opinion on your compliance with those awards. We did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And in item 2 there, we indicate we expressed an unmodified report related to your overall compliance. Over on page 31 is the finding that we did have, describes in a little bit more detail. The adjustment gives some context for it, and then management's response. So that's a quick overview of the audit and the audit process. I think the takeaway is really number one, the audit went very well, had excellent cooperation from management. You complied with all of your grant requirements. And then we did have that one minor deficiency that was reported. So I think overall it speaks to the quality of your accounting team and the information that you receive throughout the year to base financial decisions on. So does anyone have any questions?
Okay, Councilmember Williams for our auditor, and then Carol might have some answers too.
Page 25, it has report on compliance and other matters. And you just have 2 paragraphs there that, in my opinion, say you may or may not have looked at something and it may or may not have complied, but that wasn't really part of this. And then the one after that said you didn't provide an opinion on the effectiveness of what we're doing. Do you think either of those are worthwhile, or did you just write those in there to make sure that we knew that that wasn't part of this report?
So on page 25, it relates to you're looking at the report on internal controls.
Yeah. No, the next one, report on compliance and other matters.
So that is a general broad overview where we're not able to look at compliance with all matters. But the matters that we do look at, we didn't identify any type of deficiencies, but we don't look at, like I said, all matters and be able to express a specific opinion on that. Versus when you go to the next page, it's very specific to the next report. It's very specific to your major programs that we test, and we do express specific opinions there.
So that's just saying you're not going to get into all of the weeds, just some of the weeds.
Basically, yes, that's a good way to say it.
And then the purpose of the report said that you didn't provide an opinion on the effectiveness of our internal controls and compliance, but you didn't find anything that would lend itself that we need to do that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. We're not engaged to specifically provide an overall opinion, but when we identify what we believe are weaknesses, we're required to bring those to your attention. So when you go back to page 25, in that last paragraph where we have that one finding that's identified as 2024.001 related to that audit adjustment. So that'd be an example of when we do identify something, we bring it to your attention.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any additional questions from anyone online or in the room?
I have just a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I just
Mayor,
thought
please.
I would chime in. The audit is done on a test basis, and they sample based on statistical reasoning through volume or dollar amount of transactions or different things like that as how they determine the level of testing that they do. So it's not a complete review of every transaction and everything in our operations for the year. It's just they sample and test, and the results of those things lead to in extrapolating that everything else probably and more than likely is sufficient and adequate and as it should be. So just to share.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank Carol and her staff and also our auditor. I wrote down your name, Mr.
Steve Hochstetter. Not an
Hochstetter.
easy one.
That's okay. I wrote it down, but then I had to find out where I put it. Thank you for all of your hard work. And based on that, I think we can have a motion to approve the audit or accept the audit. Accept the audit, I think it is.
I will make a motion that we accept the audit report as presented.
Second, Mayor Dixon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so congratulations and thank you very much to our accounting team. They do a fantastic job between federal, state, local money. Okay, our next item is the Transportation Improvement Program Amendment Number 4 for Multimodal Transportation and Mitigation Options Fund Reduction, Danelle Miller, and also thank you very much to our staff at CDOT that helped us with this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you so
go
much
ahead.
for having me today. As you all know, the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments acts as the metropolitan planning organization for our urbanized area here in the Pikes Peak region. And one of our roles is to facilitate the process by which certain federal and now state funds are allocated within the region. Our state fund is the Multimodal Transportation and Mitigation Options Fund, MMOF. During the budgeting procedure through the state, the legislature has actually rescinded about $71 million in MMOF that had been unspent in the state. We can go into the details of that if you'd like, but basically what it boils down to for PPACG at this point is that we were overprogrammed by $3.3 million. So as an organization, we held a workshop with our Transportation Advisory Committee. We also invited all of the project sponsors to that workshop. MMOF is an unusual funding source for us because nonprofits are also eligible for that funding. So we do have Envita, Silver Key, Pike Rides, some of those folks who have either gotten MMOF previously or have current contracts. TAC gave us some guidance regarding the reduction of funds. We prioritized any of those projects that were operational in nature. So for example, a Silver Key project that is providing rides to seniors right now, we did not want to mess with touching any operational funding. We also wanted to prioritize any funding that is already under contract, already under IGA with CDOT, or things that we anticipated going out to bid in the near future. So with that in mind, those were kind of the projects we did not want to disrupt. With that in mind, we had four projects that kind of rose to the level where Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit, and Monument offered to reduce their MMOF funding to those particular projects. Those are the top 4 projects at the top of your table here in the memo. And I can run through those. The MMOF for the Colorado Springs Union Boulevard Trail Project and the Colorado Springs Homestead, Woodman, and Skyline Trail Crossings projects was canceled. That was the MMOF project. Those were projects that the city was willing to delay or to find other funding sources for. The MMT project, the Mountain Metro Transit project, that's a bus stop ADA compliance project that had all of the MMOF, a little over $1 million removed from it. It does retain a little over $1 million in federal TAP, that's Transportation Alternatives Program funding, and also some local PPRTA funding. We did have a couple of questions about that particular project in the workshop on Friday. We did talk with MMT. Lan wasn't able to be here. Allison Burns is on the line if we have additional questions. However, what we found out was that the reduction in the MMOF doesn't impact the project at this point because they're still in the design phase, and they will be seeking additional funding to fully fund that project. And in addition, the compliance projects applies to any bus stops that are not currently ADA compliant. So it does typically include a new concrete pad for both accessibility and safety, adjustments to the adjoining sidewalk connections to create that kind of safe travel, safe path of travel. And then also those kinds of amenities such as shelters, benches, trash receptacles, things like that. But since it is still in the design process, that's why they were willing to reduce funding from that project. And then finally, the fourth project does retain some of its MMOF. It's the Jackson Creek Widening Project for Monument. It was reduced about $684,000. We did chat with Monument, and it is likely that they will come back to seek additional funding. However, they may choose to seek a funding source other than MMOF. MMOF has very limited eligibilities. It can only be used for multimodal travel, essentially. So they may choose to seek a funding source that would be a little more flexible in what they can use it for that project. The rest of our projects remain fully funded. And we are very thankful to our TAC members, to CDOT, to all of our jurisdictions for helping us with this project. We think it went very smoothly, and we're very helpful that our Region 2 staff were able to get us numbers quickly and get us through this process. In part because we were also told by CDOT that going forward, the MMOF will be given out in a kind of first to the trough manner. So whoever has a project ready and ready to go, they will get the funding first. So we're kind of encouraging everybody to get those projects encumbered and spent as quickly as possible. Our table in your packet has a lot more than just those 4 projects in it, just for transparency and awareness. All of our remaining MMOF funding was pushed into fiscal year 26 and beyond. So we wanted to make sure that it was in the packet for transparency. We roll forward all the funding on an annual basis anyway, but just for efficiency, it seems like it would make more sense to be able to show that zero balance in fiscal year 25. Happy to answer any questions at this point, but that's kind of the gist of what we're going for today. And we're looking for a recommendation to adopt this amendment to the TIP.
Okay, so I'll say 2 things before we ask for questions. The first of all is this is an interesting policy. Get yourself a fast horse, not a slow donkey. If you want to get the multimodal options funds, at least for the next few years, the state legislature really hit transportation hard. And of course, my opinion, but in my opinion, that's where we always should spend the money. So that's just my opinion. Thank you very much to Michael Snow. Took me a while to remember the name, and Shane, you can pass that on, for all of his assistance with this. We were one of the first ones at the table with him to make our adjustments. And does anyone in the room have any questions? Okay, I see no questions, and seeing no questions online, I will entertain a motion to approve the TIP amendment.
I'll move approval of the TIP amendment as presented. John Graham.
Mayor Dixon, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Okay, this next one is for Andy. Board appointments, Front Range Passenger Rail, Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee, Drive Smart Colorado, and a transit representative.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll tee this one up, and we may follow a slightly different sequence. In the memo, it's a little bit sequenced a little bit differently, so we'll follow the sequence we have there. So starting with the stack, well, backing up a little bit, we've got a couple of new board members. We lost a few members here over the past month or two. So we thought this is a good moment to take a look at the stack lineup and other representation on other boards and commissions. So that's why we brought this forward. So starting with the stack, we have 4 of them. The stack, we have our primary rep as our chair, Holly Williams. And you've got the list in front of you of the current or the alternates that were approved at the annual board meeting back in January, where we now have 2 vacancies, 2nd alternate and 8th alternate. So just wanted to take a fresh look at that. I know at the workshop last week, Councilmember Donaldson expressed some interest in getting into the stack lineup, but this is your chance to figure out who wants to be in which order of the batting lineup.
Okay, we're taking orders, and the interesting right now thing is I'm the vice chair of this committee. That will change next May in 2026 when I'll step back as vice chair because I'll be term limited in December. And so someone from the metro area counties will have the opportunity to be vice chair. But in addition to being vice chair, if someone wants to start taking on the primary role at the stack right now, they may, but I'll stay in primary role until otherwise I'm no longer an elected official. So
I would say that if Mr. Donaldson is interested in that second or second alternate, forgive me, I would support that.
I was just gonna say, traditionally, we've plugged somebody in there or just bumped everybody up one. Everybody kind of just fiddled around with what they wanted to do. It's a great place to start just getting the information. If you are an alternate, you do get the information from the stack. But Dave, if you want to be second, go for it. I'm perfectly happy at 6th.
At the work session, I just, what I said was I'd be willing to fill in there. I've been on this before, back a couple of years ago or so. So willing to do it, especially if others don't have an interest in moving up. So, but happy to not do that.
I will say the nice thing is at second alternate, you have me and John always attending the meetings. So you get the minutes and then you can decide if you really want to delve into it. So
That's a great job.
yeah. All right. It sounds like we're going to put Dave in as second. Is that okay?
Are you getting voluntold, Dave?
I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Please let it be reflected that I twisted Dave Donaldson's arm today. Thank you.
What I would suggest, Madam Chair, you could do this all in one vote at the end.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be cleaner that way, I think. Yeah.
And
I was just gonna add, I noticed the 8th alternate spot was also open. Is it all right if I have an interest in that, or should 2 commissioners not be on that?
no, you may absolutely be on that. Typically, they will
Okay.
send out the minutes and the agenda to everybody who's on that list, but John does a great job sending them out to the whole committee as well, I think.
Okay.
Maybe.
A lot of
maybe
people
not.
would have to miss for me to, be too many involved with that one, but
That
I'll
is
bring up,
true.
I'll bring up the rear, so that's. fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's no limit. So if anybody else is interested in it and it's just an interesting way to get to see what's going on with the state.
Mhm.
Do it, Corey, do it.
Okay, so Commissioner Applegate
yeah,
as
I'd
the
like to come
8th
in.
alternate.
I think we have.
Okay, next, Andy.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So transit representative, we've had a transit representative named, appointed as a primary and secondary by our 2 primary transit providers of our jurisdiction, City of Colorado Springs, City of Fountain. Councilmember Yolanda Avila, when she was with us, was named as the primary transit rep back in January. First alternate, Mayor Sharon Thompson. Responsibilities, how should we define responsibilities? It's really getting together kind of as needed. Hasn't been a great need over the past couple of years as we were doing the long-range transportation plan, which also included the regional transit plan. We've also begun to stand up regular meetings of transit interested stakeholders across the region, about every other month or so. So this would be a way to get those two reps engaged in those conversations, planning operational kinds of things, and use that if you wish to report back to the board on what's happening in those areas.
I do believe Land may have said we have to have at least one for the purposes of federal funding, I think.
I think it is still statutorily required, but a little bit fuzzy as far as the responsibilities.
Okay.
It's still required in federal statute, we think. It's a little bit squishy. Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead,
Much like
Councilmember
like
Williams.
Dave, I've been voluntold unless anybody wants to twist my arm and arm wrestle for it.
Okay, it looks like Brandy's. Sharon, are you okay if Brandy is number one this year?
Well, it is Colorado Springs' position this year for number one. If Brandy wants to flip, I don't care, but Brandy, welcome to it. We'll work. I think we work pretty good together. So I think Brandy, go for being the primary this year.
Awesome. Great. Next.
Rolling right along, the third one, Front Range Passenger Rail District. So you may recall from a couple of years ago with the creation of the new statewide or focused corridor-wide district. There are two representatives technically from our region. We get one appointment as PPACG. The city of Colorado Springs gets to appoint somebody as well. Councilmember Lynette Crow-Iverson was your rep for the past year and a half. Doesn't have the bandwidth really to take this on going forward, and just did have a chance to confirm that with her this week. We did identify a first alternate. You all identified a first alternate and a second alternate that we have listed here as well, Mayor LeKind and Mayor Thompson. So looking for a primary rep on the Passenger Rail District Board.
I'm going to volunteer Mayor LeKind to move up.
And I am happy to accept the primary position of the choo-choo train.
Now, I think that's really good to have Mayor LeKind as number one and Mayor Thompson as number two. They're the two communities, other than Colorado Springs, most affected by it because they don't at the moment get a stop. So
I don't want to stop.
She doesn't want to stop,
but they will have
we
a
would
lot of
like-
trains going 75 miles an hour through my community, and I've said it every month.
I think
and I'm gonna
Monument
say
does
it,
want to stop.
And
We even have a
causing-
new sidewalk going across the tracks that has been helping people navigate without tripping over the rails.
Awesome. Awesome. So, okay. So we have that one. And we're still doing Drive Smart?
Last one is Drive Smart Colorado. The three reps that were appointed back in January, Mayor Havenar stepped down last week, Commissioner Eric Stone, and we also had one vacancy. So we now have two vacancies on Drive Smart. Really trying to jumpstart the efforts there. There's a lot of really good work happening in the traffic safety world right now. So just trying to find some board engagement on the overall Drive Smart board as well. It's also populated with law enforcement folks from the different jurisdictions around the region and the state are on the board. It's led by John Henry that you know has been a very strong advocate around traffic safety. Who else do we have on the board? I think that's all that's coming to mind right now. Our board members, John Henry as the president, and then we have not yet sort of seen in the conditions of citizen volunteers. Yeah. I think we're pretty inclusive. I think we're finding our voice and really gaining our legs as far as messaging. And Trish, whom you've met, she's our point on the safety work we've been doing across the region. Has been doing a lot of outreach in schools and elsewhere to really emphasize the need to have safer travel habits and reduce our serious and fatal crashes in the region. So it's become a real high priority. So you don't want to give the hard sell, and if you need some time to think about this, we can always bring it back at a subsequent meeting. But if there are a couple of folks interested in getting involved, we would welcome the support.
Andy, are they still only meeting quarterly?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a monthly meeting.
Madam Chair, I would be interested in taking that role, that primary role, in place of previous Mayor Havenar.
Wonderful. Thank you. I don't think it includes get one free ticket reduced. So
And it's no problem to attend virtually. So a
Yeah,
lot of
if
us
they're
people
meeting-
attend virtually. So yeah. What day of the week is that, Andy?
It's been Friday mornings.
Friday mornings? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Mayor Annie.
I would be interested in serving in the other position on the board.
Awesome.
Super. And just for clarification, we have it's three primary positions from our board on the Drive Smart board. So yeah, you're all voting members. That would be super. Yeah.
No, I'm trying to sell it. It's only quarterly. It's on, what time is it? And I'm trying to sell it here. So I'm glad I got some takers. So.
Maybe if they signed me up for free driving lessons, I might do it, but okay. All right. We did good. We got 2 members on that committee. Thank you so very much, everybody. Now, do these need to be done by motion or?
Yes, and I would say just one comprehensive motion saying, just moving the nominations that have just been identified for the 4 committees. We've captured them here, so we're good to go. You don't need to get overly specific. We've got them for the record.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve the board appointments?
Yeah, Madam President, I'd like to move approval of the nominations that were just made for the 4 boards.
Okay.
Mayor Dixon, second.
Awesome. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much, especially to our volunteers. Next item is the update to our federal legislative themes and priorities. Jared.
Good morning, Board of Director members. Jared Verner, Public Policy and Communications Manager here at PPACG. A few months ago, we adopted our first federal themes and priorities document. And in that initial discussion, we focused our efforts on transportation funding, funding for senior services, and air quality, as that was our top 3 federal issues at the time. As we have matured in our federal advocacy and our program, water quality, which is something we have identified at the state level and which we do have a state role in as the Section 208 planning agency. We have identified that as a need to add that to our federal themes and priorities document, which we're bringing to you today. So I would say a relatively straightforward amendment to our themes and priorities. This largely matches what we do at the state level, which would be adding a priority that we would support for improvement of water quality and wastewater planning and compliance efforts, including support for the state revolving fund. We'll be discussing that in a little bit more detail in the federal updates at the next item, but happy to take any questions for this particular amendment, which we do require a 2/3 vote since it is a legislative item.
Are there any questions on the federal brochure? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve our federal priorities brochure.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Dixon, a second by Commissioner Applegate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that got the 2/3.
I would agree.
Okay, and then our next item is the legislative update. Jared.
So before we go into the federal slides that you have in your packet, I do want to introduce Ed Bowditch, who is one half of Bowditch and Castle, our state lobbying team. Ed has come down now that he's not stuck in the Capitol building for the state legislative session, so he's decided to enjoy us instead. So Ed, I'm going to bring you up to provide any updates at the state level before we dive into federal.
And Ed, you also look a whole lot more relaxed now, wouldn't you say?
He's a lot taller in person.
Thank you for the comment. I am a lot more relaxed, Madam Chair. So thank you so much for the invitation to come down. My name is Ed Bowditch, and I am proud with Jennifer, who's not here today, proud to represent the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. For me, it is a homecoming every time I come to Colorado Springs, as I am a Colorado College graduate from way back when. If we look at the 2025 legislative session that ended just about a month ago, each legislative session is different. If I were to say what were the themes from this one, it was a lot of mandates on local governments. There are some times when the legislature delves into mandates on, for lack of a better term, you might say personal behavior or individual things. This year, there were all sorts of bills by the legislators on local governments. The state decided it would be a good idea for them to get involved in the regulation of electric fences. Somehow they thought that was a state issue. Approval of cell towers and how long a local government could have to approve a cell tower. Approval of solar panels, and so on. Some of these bills, a lot of them didn't make it through, but the fact that they're introduced does send a message that the state does think that they can get involved in any of these issues that are traditionally issues where local governments would have the responsibility. The budget challenges, as have been mentioned with the multimodal options fund, the budget challenges dominated pretty much everything this year. As we like to say, there ain't no money. The state has a roughly $17 billion general fund budget. They started the year with a $1 billion shortfall. The cuts they made this year are the easy ones. I say that knowing that they're going to have to come back in round 2 in 2026 and make the next round of cuts, and there's going to be less options. For the state funding for senior services, 2 years ago in the 2024 session, we and a group, and I was still represent Denver Regional Council of Governments, we and a whole bunch of advocacy organizations really pushed to increase that state funding for senior services. And we got a $2 million increase in the 2024 session. This year, that $2 million was taken back. Again, not because the Joint Budget Committee members don't see the need or think it's an important program. They just needed to come up with money. So we're concerned about what the budget will do, will happen this coming year. Also, given the degree of federal uncertainty, if there are any changes in the federal budget that impact the state, whether it's Medicaid, school lunch programs, there's so many different programs that are joint federal and state. If there are any changes in those, it is likely we will have a special session. I made one request, sorry to be a little comical here, yesterday to a legislator saying, if we have a special session, can you change the name of the special session to a regular interim session? Because we seem to have them every year. But we'd likely be back in special session to make changes to the budget. If we look towards 2026, that will be an election year, so we'll have a little more politics layered over the entire legislature. Obviously, it's a governor's race. We have a number of candidates who've already announced for that. We will see if there's a little more legislative independence. Governor Polis vetoed lots of bills this year, including one bill that had passed both houses unanimously. And yet there hasn't been a veto override of a substantive piece of legislation since 1988. Well, maybe this coming year, since it's Governor Polis's last year, the legislature would want to push that a little bit. We shall see. I'm happy to take any questions. Again, it's good for me to be here just to listen to the discussions this morning and learn more about Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, and we appreciate being able to represent you at the Capitol.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yeah, Mayor Dixon, strategically, should we be looking at engaging now with anything?
I think right now I would recommend this fall trying to meet with some of our legislative delegation. We had some success getting some of our legislative delegation to support our legislative positions during the session. I think this fall, once we get a little closer to the legislature, Jennifer and I can come down and set up some meetings. We will also, as you all know, have a new state senator, as Senator Lundin has announced his retirement from the Senate. So it would be important for us to get with that new state senator, whomever is appointed to that seat as well. Okay. But I think the fall is a good time for that. Okay. But that's a great question.
Okay, Councilmember Donaldson.
Yep, thank you, Madam President. Ed, for those of us new to PPACG, could you just fill us in on your background, maybe your partner's background?
Sure. Yes, that's a great question. I should have done that before. So I've worked at the Capitol since 1987. I was on the nonpartisan research staff for a few years. Most of the 1990s, I was on the nonpartisan budget committee staff. Worked briefly as the deputy director of the governor's budget office Chief Financial Officer for Colorado State University System, and then I've been a contract lobbyist since 2008. Most of our clients are local governments, education, nonprofits. One of my clients is the Resource Exchange, nonprofit serving El Paso, Park, Teller, and Pueblo counties. AARP is one of our clients. We are contract lobbyists. We have multiple clients. Jennifer, my business partner, has been a contract lobbyist since about 2015. And she worked in Governor Hickenlooper's Office of Economic Development. She also does represent the Colorado Economic Development Council and some insurance companies as well.
Thank you. And in your experience over those decades, would you say this is the best functioning legislature you've seen in that time?
One of the things that's changed is that many more bills pass. I mean, this year there were 650 bills introduced and 500 of them passed. I know. And you just shake your head and say, was Colorado really in need of additional 500 new laws come January that we needed to have done by May? And maybe I've just been there for so many years. I kind of am setting a higher threshold on what needs to be accomplished. The legislature this year, people got along better at the Capitol. We've had much more acrimony in prior years, so that's kind of nice. People got along. Next year, heading into an election year, we'll see if that holds up.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Williams.
You mentioned the budget shortfall. Is that federal monies that were utilized that are not coming in? Again, that's the rumor I've heard, but you're in the trenches. So is that where that's coming from?
The state budget shortfall is due to a variety of factors. One, there has been an increased utilization for our current Medicaid recipients. Those people who are on Medicaid are using more services. There are some other things that happened a year ago during last year's special legislative session in August. The legislature cut the assessment rate for residential properties. And when they did that, they had to come up with another $100 million of state funding for schools to hold the schools harmless. So that added to it. The voters directed the legislature to spend $350 million in law enforcement to support law enforcement. That didn't all have to be in 1 year, but that added to the shortfall. There was a correction in prior year Tabor refunds. We hadn't been giving as much as we'd supposed to. That added to it. Now, in a larger sense, you could also say when the legislature expanded Medicaid eligibility 10 years ago, that expanding that population, I'm not going to say whether that's a good or a bad thing, but expanding that population certainly added to this issue. So it's a combination of all of those things.
Is there a piece of that that's an influx of federal money that they spent and now we're not getting that money, or is it more of what you just mentioned?
I think in terms of some of the federal ARPA funds and things like that were spent, most of them were spent on one-time things, but not all of them. So again, the expiration of those dollars then have to be replaced by state funds. That adds to that as well. It's a combination of 5 or 6 different things.
And have you found that anything is off the table? It seems like anything that they can come up with to create policy or legislate is what they're going to do. But have you even got an inkling that anything is off the table, or, are they just going full bore with as much as they can regulate from that position?
I don't want to say this with any degree of certainty, but I will observe the senior homestead exemption, which passed by the voters in 2000, provides a property tax break for those seniors that have been in their homes for 10 years. That the legislature has the ability to cancel that. It cost the legislature about $175 million. So if they were to cancel that, that would be significant savings. They canceled that in 2009 and 10, I believe, but they haven't ever canceled it again. And they tend to say, we're not going to go there. Now, I don't want to say automatically that one is guaranteed, but that's the type of thing where they say, we've got to make cuts, but there's certain things we really don't want to go to. And that would be one of them that I know helps our senior population, those seniors who own homes who've been in them for 10 years.
Well, hopefully they don't put that on the table.
I haven't heard any discussion about that.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may,
Yes, Mayor Case.
There's just a couple of observations. I heard some comments by Senator Baisley and by Representative Luck last night. And it's interesting that they had to make 1.3, 1.2 million. There's numbers flying around. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. However, the budget increased significantly from what it was last year. The overall budget is significantly higher than it was last year, but yet they still had to make these cuts, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Math anyway, it seems pretty simple. And I find, and so do others, that it's just a general spending, overspending and spending that we see going on that is contributing to it as well. So it's not just cuts. It's kind of, if you look at it at the big picture, there's some things going on that don't make a lot of sense. So just my thoughts. Thank you.
I certainly understand that, and you have to. There's a couple of responses to that. One is you look at just the general fund, and then you look at the total budget that includes all the cash funds. And the total budget will grow faster than the general fund. That includes hunting licenses, tuition payments. You know, you sign up to get a barber's license. The state collects those money. All of those things that, frankly, are dedicated revenues. But you could say that's the total budget. Second thing I'd say is, yes, there were some areas, Medicaid provider rates got a small increase, like a 1.5%, if I remember correctly. K-12 education got about a $260 million state funded increase. And the legislature said, the voters have said, we need to increase K-12 funding by inflation, and we're going to try and stick to that. They haven't done that every year. Higher ed got maybe a $20 million increase. It was just a little above flat, but it was a small increase. So there were areas that did get an increase and other areas that got cut. And the multimodal options fund, the 71 million that they took from that is an example. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Thompson.
Just a comment, not anything to the messenger, right? Just a comment of, there's a huge concern with a lot of the elected officials I talk to around town that it is not sustainable to want to implement programs by funding unfunded mandates down to local governments. It is just unsustainable. And then to threaten us if we can't do them fast enough to withhold more money from us. That is not a sustainable way to run a government. We live within our budgets. So I agree with what Mayor Case said up there. There's something kind of that's smelling not quite right. She put it a little bit more gracefully, but small municipal governments cannot keep absorbing these unfunded mandates. And they're just, it's everywhere. It's a municipal court this, it's a licensing that, it's a putting down to our sheriff's office where he's not getting enough funding because we don't have enough rooms in prisons, and we're all paying for it in a variety of ways that we're not even aware of. So just not shooting the messenger, just making a comment.
I appreciate that comment.
And I'm just going to make one comment related to that. Two comments. I was surprised by the number of bills that were introduced after the budget. That really surprised me. A lot of them unfunded mandates. There is a lawsuit that Boulder County's involved in. I'd have to find the name for you, but judges are now calling them underfunded mandates. That is not what the statute says. And so if you have a chance to ask your attorneys about joining that somehow, because it says the state legislature shall not do an unfunded mandate to local government, not an underfunded mandate, but an unfunded mandate. And there's going to be a lot of pushback, I suspect, on that particular issue, because there was a lot of, well, we don't have any money, so let's mess with local government this year. And it was very hard. But also I need to give a plug. Our legislative committee, headed by Mayor Dixon and Commissioner Stone, does meet every Monday during the legislative session, and we will have probably some meetings this fall. Very, very important. It also makes you look a little bit more intelligent when you go back to your fellow commissioners or city council members and talk about something you already know. So at least it helped me. And we have wonderful lobbyists. Thank you so much for the job you do. Does anyone have any further questions? Oh, we have one online. William Shaw with Mayor Pro Tem of Rama.
Yeah, hi. I just primarily have a comment in regards to all this regulatory services. I mean, it should be common knowledge that regulatory services are an expense. They cost money. In order to enforce any kind of regulation on anything, you got to have somebody to supervise and to take care of whatever the regulation may be. And if you're already in a financial deficit, what sense does it make to put in over 500 regulatory bills? That really does not inspire confidence from a voter's standpoint. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And as an American citizen, born and raised, all I see is more things of what the government's telling us that we can't do, and we got to pay to be told we can't do it. Where's the sense? I don't see a whole lot of common sense in any of this, and it's really causing a lot of lack of confidence in our state legislation. So a bit of disgruntlement, I might say. That's really all I got to say on that.
Lots of head shakes here, agreeing with you. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate you coming down.
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty, continuing into the legislative part, just wanted to provide a little bit of update on the federal side. I will say, compared to the last couple of months, Andy and I have talked federal. I think we're probably a little more optimistic than we usually are. But I do just kind of want to give an overarching on the budget part. So we've got two different budgets going through right now. We've got the president's fiscal year 2026 budget, which would start in October. The president released a budget appendix on May 30th, late on that Friday. And going through those budget lines, nothing of concern that directly impacts PPACG in terms of our aging services, in terms of our transportation, our military planning. But the one that is tangential, and I said I'd expand on this at this point, is the state revolving fund, and that is a wastewater focused funding source. PPACG itself does not receive funding from that source, but a lot of our municipal owned utilities or any kind of special sanitation districts or water districts, that's the fund that they use if they're needed to do any kind of capital construction. That is something Mayor Case mentioned it during our meeting on Friday, that Woodland Park has used that to great success. That particular fund is looking at about an 85% decrease from the previous fiscal year. It was budgeted at about $1 billion. It's now at about $155 million for the federal level. And so that's one that we have a lot of concern. That was in the president's budget appendix proposal. And that was one that we had previewed in the skinny budget earlier in May. I will preface, as we all know, the difference between the executive's budget proposal and what the legislature actually passes can often look very, very different. So we'll see what happens with that. The House appropriations process got started last week. So far, none of those markups are ones that we are have directly impacted us, including the state revolving fund. So that is fiscal year 2026. I'm going to jump to the current fiscal year 2025, because that's where a lot of media attention is focused right now, and that's the one big beautiful bill. And I'll be the first to admit, with as much discussion as HR 1, that bill had gotten, I had just assumed it was for next fiscal year. That is for this fiscal year, which we have June, July, August. We have about 4 months left of the current fiscal year, which is what the big beautiful bill would cover. That is currently on the Senate side. We briefed on this last month. Nothing that was of concern for our programs. Obviously a lot of attention on that one had been on the Medicaid part. Our services are not funded through that fund. However, while our staffing and programs are intact, obviously there could be increased demand if something happens on the Medicaid side. And as Ed mentioned, does that impact state level funding? And now we're looking at state. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind, even if it's not directly impacting our services. That went through the House a couple weeks ago. It is now on the Senate side. If you've heard about the bird bath that it just went through, that is the clever nickname for Senator Byrd, who's a lot of the rules for reconciliation come from him and a Senate parliamentarian that's now back on the House for agreement on the bird bath rules. There are just certain rules that are tied to a reconciliation package that the Senate parliamentarian gets to weigh in on. Again, nothing that we're concerned about. That is looking like it's going to be part of the rescission package, probably either today or tomorrow on the House side. We are starting to see a little bit of movement on the Senate side on that reconciliation, that HR 1. The biggest one that would of note for us, but does not directly impact us, the House had added in new fees on the hybrid vehicles and fully electric vehicles, since they do not pay a federal gas tax, but they still use the roads that the federal gas tax pays from. The House had proposed adding in fees for that. Right now, the Senate version would take those back out. So we'll see how that goes. Again, doesn't impact us directly, but it does impact what goes into that federal funding source. I do want to give a little bit of update on Health and Human Services. That was one that we had been following very closely. The previous proposals out of Health and Human Services, it would disband the ACL, the Administration for Community Living, and that is still the case. But it would have split the ACL programs, which the Older Americans Act comes out of, into 3 different offices. HHS has opted to keep all those programs into one, which is encouraging for us just because it gives us one office to deal with instead of 3. And those programs have been maintained their funding. We had seen a leaked budget proposal. And again, you always take leaked budget proposals with a grain of salt. And luckily we did here. The leaked budget proposal was very different from what was actually introduced. It was looking at zeroing out funding several programs that we do operate here. The budget's appendix that the president introduced kept those funding sources intact. So we were a little bit of concern, but once it was actually introduced, everything looked good on our end. And then just a slide at the end, just kind of keeping in mind, we've got a couple different fiscal years, and I also pulled in this chart that the Congressional Research Service provided, just to give an idea of why we're dealing with 2 different fiscal years, and the next fiscal year is going to be coming up sooner than we know it. But just keeping in mind where we're at with the 2 fiscal years, keeping in mind which funds are in which fiscal years. But the high level summary is we're actually in better condition than I think we were in 1 or 2 months ago in terms of concern. Again, that state revolving fund is one that we are going to get a little more active in, just because that is something a lot of our members and a lot of our special districts that we work with our water quality program, they really do look at that fund for funding their capital projects. So happy to answer any questions. Unless I missed anything, I'll give Andy a chance to jump in.
No, great summary. Just would to foot stomp that last item as well. And you mentioned it earlier about the state revolving fund for wastewater projects that's used heavily by our smaller districts, maybe not so much by CSU utilities for wastewater expansion, but all the other smaller districts. We have a bunch of them across the region. It's already been an oversubscribed program and pot of funds that they're going after, relatively small relative to just the demand out there for expansion of wastewater plants or adding new lift stations or complying with new standards. Was already oversubscribed, and now it's going to be reduced by close to 90%. So we'll probably, since it's now part of our federal priorities that you adopted earlier today, we may, working with our federal lobbyists, maybe draft up a letter, something to send to our federal delegation to say, hey, this is really important for our region for projects like X, Y, and Z that we can spell out. So just more to come on that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now I know the difference between the big, beautiful bill and the skinny something.
And it said right there in the first sentence,
Yeah.
fiscal year 25. I'm like, yep. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I try not to be, but I was caught on that one.
Okay, let's see. So now we are on to other reports and minutes. There's many of our other reports in Our
Madam
packet. Oh, item B. Well, I was just gonna ignore that one. Committee restructure. Go ahead, Jared.
And this is not timely, so if we need to get out of here, I completely understand, but no, yeah. So this was something we mentioned this to the board, and we ended up adopting the bylaws that created a working group designation, separate from the formal committees that we had discussed, and we had identified a few committees that we were going to move into this working group category. And so this is kind of that first step in the process. No action right here. We just wanted to get feedback. And so from that discussion, we're looking at creating the mobility coordinating working group, the air quality working group, and one that we did not initially identify, but we thought would fit well as a transit working group. Mobility and air quality are existing committees. They're already, they have a membership, they're already meeting. We met with both of those committees just to get feedback from these committees. And I would say it was largely positive. They saw the increased flexibility, the need to actually be able to focus on the nuts and bolts as opposed to policy, which we didn't have the right policy people in the room to have those kind of discussions. And then we also looked at creating a transit working group. So we've had an informal one that Lisa Gagnon, our transit planner, has been coordinating the last few months. They actually meet again on Friday. And the work of that group that we had just kind of been meeting organically, that we had, we brought them together, but there's been really good discussion. We thought this would fit well for this category as well. Just to formalize a little bit more than we had been. We had already been noticing this transit working group because it met the 3 or more requirement for several of our committees, just because we were inviting a lot of people into this group. So structurally, how that transit working group operates probably won't change, just because we're already doing everything that this working group would do. But the biggest thing I wanted to get feedback on, the board, as the bylaws state, would set the scope and purpose of each working group, and that's what you see a little bit on the screen, and then a little bit on the next page is the mobility working group. That has a lot involved in that. I can go into more detail, similar to the air quality working group and the transit working group. This would basically kind of taking what they're already doing, turning that into the focus of these groups. All 3 of these groups, also identified by the bylaws, would have a committee that, if something policy related came up, would go to that committee. All 3 of these groups would be assigned to the Transportation Advisory Committee. Obviously, mobility and transit, I think, fit well with that, and air quality, just because of transportation impacts. And there's a lot of overlap, especially with the greenhouse gas rules that we have to do on the transportation side, that air quality makes sense to go into there. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. This is not an action item today. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is not particularly timely. So if we want to really dive into this and go into more detail, we can. Happy to take any suggestions either here or by email.
Do we have any questions or comments today? Council member, he was thinking, was ready to say. Okay, let's think on this. I think this sounds like a really good group, a really good idea. So that will be my opinion. We'll see what happens when we get ready to move on to it. Okay, so now we are done with information items. So other reports and minutes, we have several committee reports that are included in the packet for your information. The TAC, the CAC, the Mobility Coordinating Committee, the Regional Advisory Council, the Commission on Aging. I will say this is Elder Abuse Prevention Month, so be sure to give your parents a call or do some research on the different types of elder abuse. It's real, it happens. It happened to my mom. So, Air Quality Technical Committee, Water Quality Management Committee, and we're to our favorite one, the Colorado Department, my favorite one, I'm sorry, the Colorado Department of Transportation Monthly Update.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Shane Ferguson with CDOT. Before I introduce Scott Schnacke to give the project update, I want to give you a brief update on our 10-year plan process. For those of you that are familiar, our 10-year plan is kind of our larger capital improvement program that we've installed since 2019. This is what's coming up is our 3rd cycle. It's usually a four-year plan. And to give you a flavor, kind of in the same tone of just budgets and challenges with budgets, the first cycle, the state or region 2, which is the southeast 14 counties, we received about $450 million for that first 4 years. The second 4 years, which was 23 through 26, we received about $320 million for region 2 as a whole. This next planning cycle, we're going to receive about $166 million total for region 2. To give you a flavor of what a project will cost, the research and powers interchange currently under construction is about $68 million under construction. So we've got some challenges coming up.
I think you mean the airport and powers.
I'm sorry, yeah, airport and powers. That's correct. Yeah, airport and powers. That capital improvement program, some of the projects that we were able to complete over the past number of years, as the Fillmore to Garden Gods project currently under construction, airport and powers under construction currently, research and powers, which was the interchange a few years ago, was underneath that same program. MAMSIP was under that same program. The Highway 115 expansions just completed and resurfacing as well, and out in Park County, 285 and 9 project was also underneath that 10-year plan program. That a lot of that funding comes from our general plan transfer. With respect to PPACG area, this next cycle, what we're looking at is PPACG will receive around $80 million for the next 4 years. We're committed to finishing projects that were identified in the previous 2 cycles. That's where a decent amount of that funding will probably go. We're looking at some of the other projects that we're considering are based off of our PD 14, which was our direction that was passed by the Transportation Commission this past winter as far as how we're going to plan moving forward with our 10-year plan funding. And so that's really a focus on safety, asset treatment, as well as mobility options. And so that being said, we're going to work through the TAC and CAC here this month and propose a few of the projects that we want to move forward. And then next month, it will come before the board for review and approval. The final schedule for the 10-year plan after July, I present in front of our EMT or executive management team for CDOT. I believe that is late August, early September for their approval. And then this fall, it will go in front of the Transportation Commission for approval as well. And so with that, any questions with respect to the 10-year plan cycle that's coming up?
What do you budget for in the 10-year plan as far as increasing costs? Because the last few years have just been crazy for trying to get projects done.
Yeah, we do our best with how our projects have advertised and kind of that database of say asphalt costs or concrete costs, et cetera, and project out what that may be based off of some inflation costs and what we're seeing in the market. It's very difficult to predict. The past number of years since the COVID situation came through, wages, salary and wages really skyrocketed and became a real part of the challenge in predicting our costs for construction projects. We're getting a better handle of that now. It's kind of settled down for a little bit. We still have challenges with material inflation, but we try our best to incorporate that as much as possible when we're estimating our projects. We also prioritize what projects will go out to advertisement as we're moving forward. And so as we move through our list, we have I'll say $80 million. If we have a project that's $50 million, it comes in at $60 million. We have that less $20 million to fund the next round. And if we can't fund our next round of projects, we shelve those until we get through the next cycle.
Figure in your inflation, 10%, 12%, what do you kind of figure? I remember one year you came back and it was like everything's coming in 25, 30% higher.
Yeah, our project costs, we had some numbers that came in around 30% or more. We're, like I said, we're settling in pretty well where a lot of our estimates are coming in, I'd say around 5 to 10% or less. We've come underestimate a number of times as well, but some of the more challenging ones will be around 5 to 10%. Any other questions before Scott comes up and gives project updates?
I just have a comment that I think a few years ago when you guys painted the highways so you know which lane to get into when you're getting onto the freeway, where, you know, I-25 South, I-25 North, or whatever, those to me were a huge public safety feature. We used to have a lot of people try to turn in an on-ramp down in Fountain at exit 128. I mean, the off-ramp they're trying to turn onto.
Sure.
And that's pretty much stopped. The feature you guys have done this year that I am hearing a lot of accolades for from citizens are the new signs you've been installing to let you know what lane to get into, you know, such and such a signal coming up, left lane, and that. I those are really, really helpful too. You don't see a lot of that last second lane juggling with people trying to figure out what lane for the signal. So thank you for that safety feature that you're working on this year.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Just a question. Going up and down Ute Pass on Highway 24, is there a scheduled cleanup for some of the stuff that's sloughed off the mountain? And there's one spot coming down from Cascade where the boulders have actually knocked the barricades almost, well, they're about this far from the edge of the lane now.
You know, I'll have to get with my maintenance team and see what the plan is as far as that area and get back with you, Mayor Dixon. I don't have that schedule in front of us. I mean,
I'm just curious if there's a schedule for the cleanup.
Absolutely. You know, one of the challenges this spring is we've needed the water. It's done havoc on our highways. And so our priorities right now is definitely trying to get on top of the potholes that are popping up everywhere, as well as getting in front of our guardrail problems that we've seen from the hits throughout our corridors. And so that's our number one and number two priorities is addressing those. And then all the other components, you know, come after that. So,
okay. Thank you.
Really fast. If you have any questions, please stop me. So active construction projects within PPACG. And we've got Powers Boulevard and Airport Road interchange. It's planned for completion in 2026. I-25 Fillmore to Garden of the Gods reconstruction is planned for completing in 2026 also. We have the Colorado 115 resurfacing project from Nelson Boulevard to Brookside. We have a Colorado 67D, which is the north of Woodland Park, State Highway 67. Improvements, that's the reconstruction for about half a mile from Evergreen Heights to County Road, is ongoing. And then we have some signing and striping and rumble strips at various locations in El Paso County. So Powers Boulevard, Colorado 16A, Colorado 83A, and US 24A. So just a note from John that he was doing some compiling data. CDOT's budgeted over 179 million of 10-year funds into 10 projects, like Shane talked about over the last since 2019. Those averaged about 25 million per year. And those projects also included another 660 million in additional non-10-year funds that supplemented to get those projects to go. So moving on to Central Front Range, the active construction projects within CFR, we have Colorado 9 and US 285 reconstruction. The intersection and bridge project up there is just going through the final punch list and striping this spring. We have Colorado 9, Alma northbound, and US 285 Grant westbound chain up stations. So those are just finishing up the ITS, the smart functions, and the validation and acceptance period for those. We have US 24 resurfacing from Florissant through Divide. That also does include a half mile on 67 in Woodland Park. So the first mile of 67 in Woodland Park will be fresh pavement after the combination of those two projects I talked about. We have US 285 resurfacing through Bailey. That's mile point 220 through 228 in Park County. We have a Timber Bridges Sister Beam Girder Improvements Project. That's on US 24A and US 24G, east and west of Colorado Springs, as well as Colorado 9B, which is south of Hartselle, Colorado 67F, which is south of Divide, and US 285D, south of Fairplay. So just strengthening up the existing timber bridges, basically. And we also have a centerline rumble strip project on Colorado 9B, US 24A, Colorado 67F. And future planned 2026 construction within CFR is a Fremont County culvert lining and repairs project. Colorado 69A resurfacing will be south of Texas Creek. We have US 24G resurfacing and a passing lane just east of Calhan. So the resurfacing goes from Peyton through Calhan in a small passing lane just east of Calhan. So similar information for CFR that John compiled. CDOT's budgeted over 105 million of 10-year funds into the 11 projects in CFR, and those averaged 15 million per year. And those projects also included an additional 44 million in non-10-year funds. So questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see any questions. I will give the,
Chair, Madam Chair.
yes, go ahead.
So just to hit this is Jared in the back. Commissioner Mitchell just sent an email. Sounds like she's having, and she's off mute, so she might be able to ask it herself.
Wait, she did what?
She just got off mute, so she might be able to
Oh,
ask the
Amy,
question
are
herself.
you able to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I was on permanent mute. Is the information that Shane provided in the budget and the projects, I think the budget has been revised. Is that in writing somewhere that we can look at? Because it appears it would be useful for our planning conversations with our Public Works Department. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Right now, we're working through the details for our 10-year plan. So currently, before we can put that in writing and submit that out, I want to ensure that we're going through the TAC and CAC for identifying. We do have a number of other planning areas just to kind of juggle. Region 2 actually has 5 planning areas in the state, 5 of the planning areas out of the 11 in the state. And so before we can submit that information, I want to get some of that stuff settled.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? All right. So at our STAC meeting, and I'm just going to go over this really fast, I think the major update was the Multimodal Options Fund. We talked about 10-year plan funding and sent the most detailed graph I've ever seen. I'll probably will have to send this out because it's got lines going everywhere, coming in, going out. And so we also talked about rest areas, which was actually pretty interesting, and talked about transit and how CDOT programs for winter weather. I will say, but all of you guys are doing is going up to Breckenridge. When I drove out to Utah, going over Vel Pass this year is a problem because they're reconstructing both sides of the road, and plus updating their rest area there. So it's quite the interesting thing to have to go over Vel Pass this year. Lots of traffic. So, but everything at STAC seemed to go well. We're losing a couple of our people. Ron Papsdorf from Dr. Cog is going to Houston, and he's been a good ally of ours. So that was a surprise. So, anything else, John? Nope. Okay, go ahead.
Holly, can you just give us a little more information about what they said about rest areas? That seems like it's been neglected or intentionally allowed to deteriorate, to discourage.
They did say that they were weren't intentionally allowed to deteriorate, but they were very much deteriorating. And so most of them, they are actually having to completely redo. So they have 26 rest areas in the state, and they didn't have any guaranteed funding until a couple of years ago for them. And so they're going back through and they're having to redo most of them. We might want to do that because otherwise you won't get the best of updates.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Is it federal funding that'll?
I thought it was state funding that did our rest areas. So I think it's just state funding. I do.
Okay.
We recently moved it into our asset program, so it's a combination of state and federal.
There we go. We asked the smartest guy in the room, the smarter transportation guy.
Because, and I'm sure you said this during the STAC meeting, I mean, that's something that tourists to Colorado notice. That's something that people that are Colorado natives, you try to drive to Pueblo and you can't stop between here and there or wherever. And it's embarrassing when you go to other states and you see and you see how nice the rest areas are. Florida jumps to mind because I was just down there. So I hope we can fix that. So good job on stack, Holly.
Okay, thank you. Well, I did notice, just so you know, Holly, Colorado is getting theirs is completely being refurbished. So I'm going to be invited to the ribbon cutting.
Can my wife go? Her
Yes,
name's
your wife
Holly
can go
also.
too.
Okay.
It'll be the Holly Convention. Okay. We have the other committees, and there are, as always in our packet, a list of committee and commission vacancies. If you see on your list that you have a vacancy for your city or town, I know Andy would love to have them filled. And we're to the executive director's report. Andy.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just two things real briefly. One, I think Trustee William Shaw is still on the line. He is. Jody Barker, our AAA director, and I will be out in Rama this evening to give an update on PPACG services, and with a real focus on our AAA senior services out in Rama and that part of the county. So I bring that up just to let folks know we'll start reaching out, I think, to other jurisdictions and come and meet with your governing boards and just let you know who we are, what kind of services we provide, and just how we can better engage. So yeah, it's been a little bit since we've done that routinely across the region, but want to kickstart that again. And so we'll be in touch and try to get scheduled for your council meetings. The other thing I'll mention real quick, just got back last night from a conference in Seattle for the National Association of Regional Councils. A little bit foggy, but a lot of really good information, a lot of conversations around the housing challenges that we're all dealing with, all of our regions across the entire country. Had a good huddle with some partners from our Intermountain West group in Phoenix and Boise, and where else? A couple other, Salt Lake City, a couple other regions within our kind of Intermountain West region. And we're going to have a deeper dive into housing challenges that we're dealing with, because it feels different for those of us in Arizona and Utah and Colorado. I think just given our land mass, land ownership patterns, it feels different, some of the challenges we're dealing with than other parts of the country. So more to come on that, but I had some really good conversations around housing needs, transportation challenges and funding challenges, a lot of conversations there. Probably the one that got a lot of people's attention was just the rapid pace of artificial intelligence and how we're managing that. One quick takeaway that I'll share is when cell phones became commercially more ubiquitous, it took 16 years to reach 100 million users with cell phones. When the internet became commercially available, not the one developed initially by DoD, long time ago, but when the World Wide Web became more available, it took 7 years for that to reach 100 million users. It has taken 2 months for 100 million users to really start using AI. So it's really taken off in this rapid pace, and we all kind of use it in our own ways and don't really know it, but it's kind of out there as a worldwide the Western frontier with not a lot of guidelines and just a lot of concern about it sort of taking over sort of our workforce and a lot of other things, and has other impacts on, say, energy production, since we need so many data farms to help serve the needs for artificial intelligence, has an impact on workforce, obviously. So that really kind of got everybody's attention. So we'll probably shop this around a little bit with our city, town, and county managers and just see who's doing what, if anything, around the use of AI as far as developing good policies and doing training and education and things like that. So more to come on that. And last thing I'll mention is we had a representative from USDOT, vice or an assistant director within the Intergovernmental Affairs Office of USDOT talking about grant awards. USDOT inherited about 3,000 grant awards with the change in administration. Just a huge backlog that has taken a while to really clear and start getting those contract agreements in place with local jurisdictions and states and others, but they're doing a really good job kind of working through all that. But that's also freeing up their ability now to start doing additional notices of funding availability and more grant opportunities that are coming down the pike. There's been a little bit of a slowdown on grants available through USDOT the past couple of months, but we think that may start getting freed up here fairly soon. So more to come on those as well. So just a couple of key takeaways, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? I will say that was another thing in our stack packet that we should send out. is there was a list, a 3-page list of links to grant opportunities for transportation. It was just amazing. So there's a lot of opportunities out there if you have a good grant writer to get some funds. Okay, so we are at the point we can go around the table. Let's go this way. Councilmember Williams.
Well, I'll tag team with my other two members, but first of all, Colorado Springs is working on AI policies. Andy, I found that out yesterday. So if you wanted to touch base with them and see what they've uncovered. As was mentioned, the street breakfast is going to be June 18th at 5:30 a.m. downtown Colorado Springs. The hill climb is June 22nd. I don't know, is it 101, 100? We've made it up there somewhere. And the rodeo parade is going to be 11 a.m. downtown Colorado Springs, July 5th.
Okay, Councilmember Donaldson. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Rainey. You've just been too quiet back there.
I won't be quiet right now. So as many of you already know, we did a major celebration out at the airport. The airport now is a international airport. It was great having Commissioner Applegate out there also representing the county commissioners. So there's a lot more that's going to be coming with that. Southwest is the airline that is the first airline to go international at the airport. But they're looking to do more expansion from that. So a lot more that's going to be happening at the airport. Great celebration. And if you're interested in getting a free ticket to Cancun, that was the destination, you can actually go to Southwest website. And for the citizens here in Colorado Springs, they are having a contest and they're going to be giving out 2 free round trip tickets. So good information to have. And on June 18th, there's going to be June 19th, there's going to be a big Juneteenth celebration. This particular celebration this year is going to be more about education, and it's going to be very inclusive to the entire city and surrounding areas. So highly recommend that you go get out to that one also. That one is going to be at the, just make sure I get that 100% correct here. That's going to be at the Panorama Park.
Councilmember Donaldson.
Well, if you insist, what is this? June 17th, we'll know the results of the ballot measure for the annexation of Carmen Line, whether or not that gets annexed into the city. 3 miles out to the east, it's a 3-mile chunk of land out there, 1,900 acres. The only people who can vote are citizens of Colorado Springs. I mean, some of the county residents are frustrated, but they don't get the ballots on that. Number 2, I think you'll see something coming up pretty soon in the news about maybe it's a federal announcement, but it's going to impact CSU and our ability to keep prices under control for ratepayers. And then number 3, the El Paso County Board of Health, we're progressing in the job search for the new executive director since Susan Whelan has stepped down. That process is going on, and we should have a new executive director. It's still a few months away, I think, but we're working on it. So that's it.
Commissioner Weissman. And then we're going to go to Commissioner Mitchell and Mayor Pro Tem Shaw.
Nothing at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Mitchell, are you able to be unmuted again? Thank you.
I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Park County, we are busy. Our county fair is in July. We've done quite a bit of work on our fairgrounds and with some generous reclaimed material that we've received at no charge, so we are grateful. Other than that, summer is ramping up. The tourists are flocking to Park County in droves, and I will provide a better report next month because I wasn't prepared. Thank you very much.
That's okay. And Mayor Pro Tem Shaw, do you have anything for Rama?
I'd just like to thank Andy and Jody for planning on coming out this evening. We're happy to have you guys out and bring some more public awareness to the advantages of being involved with PPACG and AAA. And, you know, there's a lot of senior citizens that, you know, they lose confidence, like, oh my goodness, you know, my car broke down. What am I going to do? You know, just a lot of different insecurities that they have. And if they know that resources are available to assist them in some way, be it other, you know, a bus to take them into their doctor's appointment or something, just whatever. I think it's a great idea just to spread awareness. And I look forward to having you guys out this evening. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mayor LeKind.
No fun announcements. I mean, 4th of July parade is certainly coming up. And hopefully this coming Monday, we will have filled Councilmember Romanello's seat.
Mayor Thompson.
Nothing this month.
Mayor Dixon.
So on June 27th, the Green Box Arts Festival will begin up in Green Mountain Falls, and it lasts for roughly 2.5 weeks-ish. They have events pretty much almost every day, except for some of the Mondays. They take a Monday off. They are actually right now installing a brand new seasonal art display, which goes over the whole north side of our lake. And it's one of those that when the wind blows, it kind of moves. And it's
wow,
pretty cool. So yeah, come on up, take a look.
You said the 27th.
Correct. It begins the 27th and it goes through the second week of July, I believe.
Okay. Mayor Durham.
Yes, summer events are officially kicking off in Cripple Creek. We have the Mustang Rally, the 3rd annual, coming up on Saturday. The first year we had it was about 100 vehicles. Last year was 300. And so we're building that event out. And then the Top of the World Rodeo is also happening this weekend at the Teller County Fairgrounds in Cripple Creek. And then, of course, we have the 94th annual Donkey Derby Days, the final week of June. That's June 27th through the 29th. So if you want to come up for Donkey Derby Days, I'm also music directing and playing piano for the melodrama. So come hang out with the donkeys during the day and come see a show in the evening. So
awesome.
Yep.
Commissioner Applegate.
Also to bounce off the AI stuff, Andy, county has actually formed a committee as of recently. So yeah. So I don't know, not to step on your toes, but yeah, we formed a committee too, where we're going over kind of like our AI stuff and everything. So please reach out to our staff. And then the only thing I had to add was it July 8th through the weekend, Pikes Speaker Bus Rodeo. So hope to see everybody there.
I skipped Mayor Graham, but I was thinking his events are usually right around Halloween, the really fun ones.
Well, thank you. We have all kinds of events, but certainly the coffin race is a big deal. This coming Monday at 7:00 in the morning, we're going to dedicate a new parking lot in Manitou Springs. It'll be I mean, only about a quarter of a mile inside from the east boundary. So this will enable people coming to Manitou to park there and then take a free shuttle into town. So we're hoping that's going to reduce congestion. It's all part of a long-term plan to reduce congestion and get people around conveniently. So it's a big step forward. We could not have done it without PPRTA. And we used a lot of money out of our own parking funds. So we're making progress on that. We're looking forward to making life simple. Thank you.
Mayor Case.
Thank you. We again have the old-fashioned 4th of July on July 4th. Imagine that, during the day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then at 5:30 p.m., we will transition in Memorial Park as well to the 46th, I believe, Symphony Above the Clouds, hosted by the UPass Symphony Guild. And that will be our Woodland Park Wind Symphony will be the symphony that will be playing, and they're excellent and quite enjoyable. And it's really nice to be in the park. With the weather conditions today, we will have about a 20-minute firework display after the symphony, or when they play the 1812 overture. And that has been set up by the city. And thank you to Glant Havenar. She gave up her pyros, so we now have a pyro in Woodland Park. And so pray for rain and the weather to be conducive to fireworks, and for Annie as well. You guys have them anyway. So we are surrounded by national forest and it's right there. So we often don't get to shoot off fireworks because of fire danger, but things are looking good today. And then on July 5th is the first inaugural America's Mountain Festival featuring Ned Ledoux and Michael Martin Murphy, who will be doing, I think, the 50th or 60th anniversary of Wildfire. Isn't that the name of it? Yes. Anyway, we have two other, Mr. Grimes, I forget his first name, and then one other artist that will be playing at that festival. VIP tickets are about sold out to the tune of 200 tickets. And then regular admission is $65 and there's still plenty of tickets available. So looking forward to that and hoping to see some of you all there.
Okay, so at El Paso County, our El Paso County Fair theme is going to be Spud-tacular. And I think that's centered around potatoes, maybe. Then also, I just wanted to announce, I think on the El Paso County Public Health website or on the El Paso County website, just especially for our small towns, there will be a vacancy on the Board of Health. And so we wanted to make sure that all of our small towns in El Paso County knew about that. And it's the time to rotate the small town vacancy, I guess. So
Is that information being sent to our city clerks?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Geithner said it was, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew to watch for it.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have.
Holly, can we just explain a little bit about that Board of Health? On the Board of Health, the seats are distributed by, there's a couple of county commissioners, one person from city council, and then different size, like there's a doctor, but is it just one? It's one small town representative? Okay, so that's what that means. And so this is the chance for Fountain or Monument, anyone that's covered by EPC, El Paso County Board of Health, to get your person in there to fill that slot. So, it only comes up, was it a 4-year appointment?
I actually think the Board of Health are 5-year appointments.
5.
Yeah.
I think they can get reappointed once. So
Mhm.
When it opens up, it's important to go ahead and apply if you want to get someone from your town on there.
Yes. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. And is there any other business that needs to come before our committee? Okay. Seeing no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.